Hey, welcome to the Strong Roots podcast. My name is Kristen Hill, and we are so excited that you're tuning in today. Our prayer is that you would move one step closer to Jesus through this series. So go ahead and check out this next episode. Hey, Strong Roots, we are in our friendship season, and today we are talking about being able to confront people. And we were just talking beforehand, but this is something that Pastor John is really good at. He is definitely able to do it in truth and love. Obviously not perfectly, but you really do this well. And so I'm really excited for you to teach people who are listening today, because I think for the majority of us, this is something that we fear doing, is confronting people. So I'm just going to kick it off with, have you always not been afraid to confront? Or has there been a time where you're like, I really don't like to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there have been times where, especially when I was younger, I didn't enjoy confronting. But I think when you begin to see the benefit, like all the dread, all the anxiety that is in your life that comes from not confronting, and then how it can melt away from a great godly confrontation, it feels great. And I had a few people who were really good at confrontation in my life in my college years, while I was in the middle of almost getting expelled from Wheaton College for pranks and other stupidity and shenanigans. That really showed me, though, like, wow, like that is a really godly way to handle that. And I feel equipped and uplifted and dignified and pointed to better. And I thought, you know what, I want to get better at that. And I'll say this too, I feel like when people use the phrase burnout, I'm just burned out. I feel burned out, burnout all the time. I hear it all the time. I think usually it is because of relational failure in whatever context you're burned out on. So if a pastor's burned out at a church, I'll bet that there's a lot of mismanaged conflict that has just resulted in uncontrolled anxiety in a variety of different contexts. You know, I'm just burned out at my job. You know, it's probably mismanaged conflict that is running amok in a bunch of different areas, and it's resulted in overwhelming negativity. Because, you know, it's amazing to me how you can have somebody work at a purpose-driven, no-drama company that they're doing a squillion hours for a career, and they feel great. Right? They feel great. Why? Because they're managing conflict super effectively. You know, in a marriage, I'm just burned out on my marriage. I'm burned out on whatever. I'm burned out on my kids. You know, and I actually think like a mom and toddlers, or a dad and toddlers, parenting in young kids, middle, tween kids and teenagers, what burns us out on our kids? Mismanaged conflict.
I agree.
And that's a big deal. Like people, they don't understand these little humans. Like we have to confront them effectively.
Right.
Or we'll have mismanaged conflict that bleeds all day long. You know, when you use perverse incentives, when you do these things, when you push it down the road and just say, oh, it's okay, I'll give you what you want now. All we're doing is we're kicking that mismanaged conflict later. And so I know moms who are like, I don't want to go home. You know, I want to stay at church. I want to stay at life group. I want to stay whatever. I want to pick up my kids late from whatever because of mismanaged conflict.
Right.
And so I learned early on, like, even though I don't like conflict itself, I love the peace that conflict produces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's the question everyone wants answered. How do you confront well?
Oh, well, this is super, super easy. I think that the Bible is replete with examples of how Jesus, our creator and designer, handles conflict masterfully. And just over and over again, and I just preached on this, but he like dignifies Sumerian woman at the well, and dignifies her with conversation, shows her that he knows her, understands her context, dignifies her feelings, and just come in and say, you're wrong, but he dignifies her, right? And then confronts her and says, go and sin no more, And I think, obviously, when I'm being confronted by somebody, or when I'm confronting someone, overwhelmingly, first and foremost, they have to know that I really care about them and I want to see their best interests at heart. I don't want to just tear them down, and they need to know that I value them as a person, and that's the way I would want to be treated. That's the way we all want to be treated. And I think a lot of times, because we haven't seen conflict modeled effectively for us, we don't really know how to do that with our kids. And so we don't want to confront someone because we know how bad it's felt for us, but it doesn't need to be that way.
Right. Being somebody who feels very clunky when it comes to confronting, because it is a muscle that I didn't need to work out until I became a Christian. For people who are listening, like, that sounds great, but I am so awkward and so clunky in confronting. How could you help ease some of that embarrassment, or, just, can you do it wrong? Maybe is the question. I want to know.
Well, I think, I've got lots of friends who are in sales, and one friend in particular owns a car dealership, and he's like, the hardest part about finding a good car salesman is you need to find somebody who looks him in the eye and says, do you want to buy the car?
Right.
And he's just like, you just got to go for it. I remember I used to be really afraid to ask a girl on a date. It was like, oh, so scary. And then I realized, like, I think every girl would go on one date with just about any guy as long as, he takes a shower and grooms himself and whatever and has a job. But it's not that hard to look a woman in the eye and say, hey, I'd like to take you out to dinner. And you find out, wow, like that wasn't bad at all. And I think conflict similarly is one of those deals where it's like, hey, and I'll pull people into my office all the time if we got issues at work and say, hey, I wanted to talk to you about, this issue that's happening in the workplace. This is the desire that I have for you, and you're not doing it. Like, why? What do you think is causing this to happen? And before I go and say, you failed to meet this desire, I'll go for it. I'll paint the picture of what I want, but then I'll ask, why is this not happening? Because there might be some contributing factors that are a part of that. And I find that that's a big deal. I think Jesus always did that. He always looked for contributing factors before he went for the throat. He'd say, hey, like, tell me why you're doing what you are doing. Because we don't, like, wake up in the morning saying, hey, I want to displease my wife, or I want to displease my boss, or I really want to, disappoint my parents. There's a reason behind what we're doing, and I'd like to know that. Then I go for the heart and I say, hey, well, here's why, like, I would like you to change your behavior, or here's why, my misunderstanding led to me being upset in the first place, and I'm sorry, and we don't need to talk about this anymore, But you just got to go for it. Go for the understanding, go for the relationship, go for the background, and then go for the conflict.
I think there are two different types of people that are listening right now. There's people who gravitate towards confronting everything, and there's people who gravitate towards just giving it grace, just forgetting about it, shoving it down. How do you know when something is worth confronting?
And that is more of an art. I just had a conversation with someone about this the other day. But I think, like, I visualize my long-term goals, and I visualize, if I don't confront this now, what's it going to look like later? And a lot of times confrontation is like changing your engine oil, No, that's not true. It's like changing your transmission fluid. Like transmission fluid, if you don't change it for a long time and then you change it, you might wreck your transmission. You know what I mean? And so they say, well, I don't know if we can change it at this point. Like, and sometimes in conflict, like, you got to do it regularly, or you're going to reach a place where it's like, man, we need a whole new transmission. Like, we got big issues relationally. Yeah. Because we leave this undone. And I just find that, like, the more I create a culture in our workplace, in my home, in our marriage of, like, conflict being a normal, positive experience, the easier it is to handle. Like, if your conflict and confrontations frequently are resulting in, like, extremely negative results, you need to read some books and get some help on how to do it more effective, because it shouldn't be a negative experience. Right. And your question about, like, when's it too big to confront, when's it too little, like, there's nothing really that's too little to confront. You can talk about lots of different things. It's really like, if you're constantly having negative experiences with confronting, you need to change your strategy. I think it's a better way to answer that.
That's great. And I have one more question. You can tell me maybe this is too repetitive, but how do you lead someone when confronting? I guess the scenario I'm imagining is, obviously, if somebody takes it well, you've done a good job leading. Yeah. What do you do when you've confronted and you probably either they don't have the emotional capacity, or you've done a poor job leading? Yeah. How do you lead through that?
Okay, so this is a really big deal. I thought of something this probably would piggyback on the previous question a little bit better, but we'll use it here. You really need to visualize why you want to confront and the outcome that you want to produce. Because for a lot of us, we're confronting because we want to hit them relationally. Like, we want to punch them in the face. It's like it's not like we're visualizing their changed behavior. All we want to do is express hurt. That's a bad confrontation. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not confronting to express hurt. If I just have hurt and I don't really see how I want them to change a behavior, then I just need to give that to the Lord, and I need to get over my pride and ask God to heal me and repent of wherever the idolatries happen in my life. Right. Okay? If I'm confronting somebody, there's a specific behavior change that I've already visualized that's going to happen. And that's the best way to lead somebody. Right? So then I'll tell them at the start of the confrontation, hey, I need to confront you about some behavior in your life, and I have a desired outcome that's going to result in us having a better relationship at the end of this. I think it's going to give you some good improvement opportunities, and I want you to know, like, I'm not upset about anything. I only want to equip you to level up and maybe equip me to see some things that I don't see, because, like, I know you're trying as hard as you can, and I just want to allocate your efforts in a way that's going to make everybody happier, you know? So I'll say that, and then people are like, oh, yeah, that's good.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I think dealing with your own hurts before you confront,
Right.
you have to. Like,
Absolutely.
if the goal is to make them a better person and to love Jesus more and to have a better relationship, like, you can't come with your hurts still, like, and festering in there. You have to give them to God. You have to choose forgiveness and then go and confront. So do you have any questions for me while we wrap up?
I do, yeah. So Kristen is our volunteer. She's the director, but she's a volunteer. She's unpaid at our Hebron campus. And I know that she's leading staff there for the first time. And in a professional context, you've begun to have to confront a lot. What is the biggest thing that you struggle with in confronting up there? Because I know I ask you a lot, and it's a challenge for you.
Can I say every part of it? No.
Yeah.
It has been really hard, I think. But like you said, I think if you don't do it, it will destroy not only your relationship with them, but destroy the potential that person has. I have recognized that when I don't confront someone, I am hurting them and the potential that they could have in the kingdom of God.
Right.
And I think visualizing that and knowing that pushes through the anxiety and the fear. And I think for me personally, it's the fear of being unliked, which is a super silly thing.
Selfish.
It's selfish. Yes, it is. And like, the goal of my life is not to be liked. The goal of my life is to follow Jesus and
to help other people become more like Jesus.
Yes, but also, like, Jesus was unliked.
Yeah.
Like, and that is something that I tell myself all the time. A great leader isn't somebody who's liked. A great leader is who points people to Jesus and follows him passionately every day.
Right.
But that, if I'm being honest, that is the biggest hang up, that selfishness and that desire to want to be liked over following Jesus or pointing people to Jesus.
So if we were to make a process to confront, I think the first thing is to deal with your own hurt prior to the confrontation. Visualize the outcome that you'd like to see happen in the confrontation as far as what you think the behavior change needs to be. Relationship enough with them in the confrontation to let them know that, you know, you feel safe, they feel safe, you have their best interests at heart. Gain an understanding of what you want or what their behavior is. And then if it's still appropriate, ask for the behavior change. And that would be the process, I think, that I use that's been super effective in my life. I'm proud of you for doing it in your life.
and honestly, the blessings that have come from it, try it. Like, if you're somebody who was like me, who's never confronted, oh my goodness, the blessings. I wish I would have started this decades ago. But thank you so much, Pastor John, for sharing your wisdom with us. And thank you so much for listening. And I cannot wait to catch you next time. Bye. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on our other social media platforms. We don't want you to miss out on any future content. Thank you so much again, guys. I hope you have a great day. And I want you to know I am personally praying that your roots stay strong.